English with Deck. You know, the question of what you would do if you won the lottery or if you hit the jackpot gets thrown around a lot. I am 90% sure the majority of you, in fact, I'm 95% sure the vast majority of you have had this discussion, usually very, very hypothetically, but with your friends, with your family, or even with yourself for that matter. And, there are many answers and there are many possible outcomes. So, guys, it's Deck here from Deck English with another episode of English with Deck. Let's go! Yeah, today I want to talk a little bit about the lottery. Doo-doo-doo. Why do I keep doing that? Yeah, well, to be honest with you, let's be more specific. What would I do if I won the lottery? Now, I just mentioned this, but yeah, I think everyone has had this conversation at some point. Maybe you're just feeling lucky one day, so you go to the lottery booth and you buy a ticket, or two, or three, or four, or five. Maybe you buy a scratch card, which where you have to use a coin or something else of similar consistency to sort of scratch away at the hidden numbers and hopefully reveal a winning combination. People have lucky numbers. Maybe today is your lucky day of the month. There are so many variables here. Maybe you have a tradition every year on your birthday. There's a million reasons people buy the lottery. And unfortunately, most of the time, it doesn't play out to anything, well, worth shouting about, let's say. And it got me thinking, well, when I really sit down and think about it, I don't think I would, well, I mean, maybe I would, but I don't think I would change my life too dramatically. I mean, of course, it depends how much money we're talking about. But let's just talk in a general hypothetical situation here. Now, if I won something like £1 million, that would be about 214 million yen. And that's obviously a huge amount of money. There is no way of denying that. And it would change a lot, in big capital letters, a lot of things. But, that kind of money would disappear quite quickly if you started just to spend it willy-nilly. If you went round like going, pow, 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 money, 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 have some money, it would disappear quite quickly. Even if you weren't particularly, let's say, on a splurge or going on if you were not going on spending sprees, it would disappear quite quickly. £1 million, or as I just said, around 214 million yen. Yeah, it would go in a reasonable time, assuming you are of a reasonably young age and in a relatively high cost of living area, or reasonably high cost of living area, let's say. And, I wouldn't be able to buy an island, of course. Or I wouldn't be able to disappear forever. Now, if I won 1 billion yen, now that's about £4.7 million. Again, you'd still need to be reasonably careful. I am now 30 years old, so I would hope I would be I will be around, sorry. I hope I will be around for at least another 40 plus years. But £4.7 million, around 1 billion yen, if put into the right places, that could help as a really nice bit buffer, and I'm not saying anything less than that is not worth it, but at that point of, what did I say, 4.7 million pounds, around 1 billion yen, you're starting to get into the stage of, well, I can live really comfortably now. If I'm careful, I don't really need to worry that much if I'm putting the money into the right places. That kind of money, you could really think about, well, rethinking your work, family, housing. Not rethinking your family. Oh my gosh. I've got money now. I don't need this family. I want that family. No, no. I mean, you could seriously rethink work situation. Oh my gosh. Rethink work, so your schedule, what kind of work you're doing. Rethink your family housing situation. Maybe go traveling a bit more. Again, you still need to be careful because it could disappear, and people have blown more than that before. So if you're careful, it could really start to set up not just yourself, but your family as well, if you would want that to happen. And let's get to the meat of today's episode sandwich. I guess the first thing I would do is nothing. I'd probably I would definitely actually, I would speak to a financial advisor. 100%. I would not mention anything to my extended family. I would not mention anything to friends. Nothing, 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 nothing. I would speak to a financial advisor ASAP. I would not buy something ridiculous. I would really, really try not to, actually. Firstly, you need to, understand where to put this money and understand what the tax implications are, stuff like that. And then you need to sort of calm down. If you win a big jackpot of money and then you're instantly going out spending it, throwing the money around, the high that comes with winning that money is going to continue and continue and continue, and you are not going to come down off it until you're basically out of money in many cases. So once I've done that, I guess I'd want to make my life a little more secure, maybe start paying some stuff off. Obviously, as I have kids, I would probably put something aside for them in the form of funds or something. Just the usual things, all the boring stuff, if you like. And then I guess, it would come down to the tricky situation of how could I sort of repay some kindness or something like that. Because you don't want to throw the money about, you don't want to splash the cash. But it is always nice to help out, let's say, parents or anyone who's really supported you in many ways. So, that wouldn't be too easy to do initially, but with a bit of careful thinking and planning, definitely I would do that as well. And then, like I said, I would probably still work. Simply because I still need rhythm. I would still need a purpose. If I was just constantly, even if it was possible and viable financially, if I was just constantly traveling and there was no real routine or schedule, I think it would quickly lose its appeal and it would quickly deteriorate into, rash decisions or even just wasting time, money, resources, the lot. So I think maintaining a routine of sorts, maintaining stability is so important. But saying all that said and done, I would, without a doubt, go travel. Why not? I'd visit Europe a bit more, some more of Asia, maybe some of America as well. The usual stuff. But let's get to the lottery itself. Enough about me and my hopes, wants, and dreams. The strange thing about the lottery is that the dream feels so close. When you've got that ticket in your hands, all it takes is that extra number to appear. All it takes is the extra sort of 10 minutes spent deciding, and you could have that big payout. But the odds are so small. They are so small. The chance of winning the UK Lotto jackpot is about 1 in 45 million. Euro Millions is around 1 in 140 million. Over here in Japan, the Lotto 7, well, it's got a bit higher odds than the Euro Millions, but it's still around 1 in 10 million for the top prize. So yeah, someone has a chance of winning, but statistically and realistically, it's not something you can plan your life around. So here are a few little interesting country differences I found out prior to recording today's episode. So the biggest lottery jackpots are usually in the US, the United States. Games like Powerball. I know actually nothing about the US lotto system. Games like Powerball, Mega Millions. Okay, America has had jackpots of over $2 billion. That is unreal. Wow. In Europe, Euro Millions is played across several countries. Okay, so the jackpots can become really large. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to mention here. Now, Japan's lottery culture, if you may, it feels a bit different to me. Don't get me wrong. We have in England, for example, in the UK, we have the Christmas lotto, the New Year special, this one and that one. But I do feel the lottery is a much more of a seasonal thing here. There are people who regularly buy the tickets, the scratches. There are regular people who I see when I go shopping for my food at the supermarket, and they are outside of the supermarket at the lottery booth. I see the same people regularly. There are those people. However, I think generally speaking, culturally speaking, it does feel a bit more seasonal. For example, end of the year. I think they have like these special ones around like holidays, like Valentine, Christmas, various summer ones, etc. But yeah, a bit more of a seasonal feeling to it, I think, generally speaking. So yeah, for me, I guess the most interesting question is, well, not really what would you buy, but what kind of life would you try to protect or maintain? So I guess for me, I want a bit more security, more free time, more freedom, less stress, the usual. And I would definitely still go for a run. But I think I would be able to go running in, well, slightly better running shoes. So, guys, please let everyone know in the comments, what would you buy? What would you try to avoid? And of course, how would you maintain a sense of normality if you won a big lottery payout? Okay, guys, remember, English doesn't have to be difficult. See you in the next one. Bye now. Boom.